Action. Oh, wait. Welcome back to...
3.
Oh.
2.
I was going to say something funny.
Give me the truth.
Oh, sorry.
1. Welcome back to Behind the Why. We're back here going to talk about we got some exciting things going on. One,
yes.
This week, we got this whole thing with ACB.
ACB?
Happening right now. And we talked to you last time about mucking with the Constitution. But I think a lot of people are really confused on this whole idea of this Constitution. Mm-hmm. So let's talk today about an originalist view as opposed to this living document that you can slice and dice and bake as you like. So join us as we get
Behind the Why.
All right, here we go. Before we do that, go ahead and take a moment, please, and hit that like and subscribe button so that you can be a part of what we're doing here. And also share this conversation because as we're getting closer, what, like 20 days now?
20 days.
20 days out. Yeah. It's time to get busy. What time is it?
Well, it's
time to get real, y'all. It's time to go and do Trump 2020.
Right.
Now, I want to say this because I remember last election.
I mean, it feels like.
It's amazing to me because the media was doing the same thing they're doing now. Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton so far ahead. Hillary Clinton, Trump should just go. And I'm saying the same thing about Biden. And Biden can't even draw 2 people to a crowd.
I know.
At least Hillary had some people at her audiences. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden can't get nobody at his audience. Right. So, but that's for a different show. But let's talk right now about this Constitution and mucking.
Well, one thing before we get to there too, because it's been a while since we've.
They don't know that.
Talked.
Don't tell them that. They don't know.
Do. They can look and see that. Oh, you haven't posted for like.
They don't know that. They could think it was like yesterday. They won't know.
Anyways, but and I think we forget. So we say election day is November 3rd.
Yes.
Really, it's like no. The election ends November 3rd. Right now this is election time.
People are voting. I voted today.
Yeah, people are voting.
My wife and I, we went to Ching today.
Right.
Ask me who I voted for. Ask me.
Who'd you vote for?
Can I say it on TV? Trump 2020. That's right. Pull the handle. Actually, I voted absentee ballot this year. But
you still voted though.
I voted,
Hopefully your ballot gets counted.
No, they don't lie and cheat in Idaho like they do in New York. So nobody I know in Idaho has gotten 4 ballots yet. I do know somebody in New York who got 4 ballots, though. Just saying.
Right.
Anyway, but...
It's crazy. But yeah, anyway, so like election is happening now.
Right now.
And it's really interesting, just everything that's happening with Supreme Court. If you want to go
Supreme Court, let's talk about that. One of the things that shocks me is that the Democrats, and this always goes back to my mind, is that these are the lawmakers of the land. Mm-hmm. These guys make the laws. And it's amazing to me that as they are questioning Judge Barrett, they're asking her questions that either they should know the answers to, i.e. how the law works.
Or what their role in Congress is as opposed to
or they're just lying on purpose. I have to get this in. It's like one of my favorite Democrats, Kamala Harris, because she's just funny. I'm sorry, she's just funny. She's talking about.
I don't know. She's my favorite.
Back in the primaries, right? Mm-hmm. And she's calling Joe Biden a racist and all this other stuff that she's accusing him of. Mm-hmm. And you remember it was a debate. You remember that, right? It was a debate. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why won't someone ask Kamala Harris, as she was accusing Judge Barrett of being a liar, say, okay, when you were calling Joe Biden a liar, were you lying then or are you lying now?
Right.
When you said he was a racist in the primary and you said he's not a racist now, so were you lying then or are you lying now?
Right.
But the point of the matter is she's lying. Mm-hmm. She's just flat out lying somewhere. But let's get back to the Constitution. So now these people are asking questions like, if this case comes before you or you're in the Supreme Court, will you do X, Y, and Z and make the law do this and make that? She's like, that's not my job. Mm-hmm. You see, you write the law, Senator.
Right.
And then my job is to make sure that the law is being enforced. But what if somebody comes before you and their life situation is really, really horrible?
Or like, okay, one thing that really got me, this was on day 2 of the hearing. And Cory Booker asked ACB,
Oh my gosh.
do you have empathy for like whatever? But I'm like, there goes the empathy card. And I just love the fact that she's not afraid to answer honestly, which is so good. So, will you denounce white supremacy? She's like, yes. And he's like, oh. Like, you can tell, he agreed with it, but it's like you weren't planning on that, because she's just very forthright.
It's crazy.
Which
These
is
guys
cool.
are totally running over the Constitution, asking her to make decisions based on how she feels.
Yeah, it's a lot of
or
emotion.
if she wants the way the case to be decided.
Well, okay, another thing. So the big things at the hearing were the Affordable Care Act and Roe v. Wade. Now, the funny thing about the Affordable Care Act, they're making it sound like if she gets confirmed, you're going to lose all of your health care coverage. It's going to be this, like, we're all afraid. And then I love the fact that other senators, Republican senators, had kept saying, whose responsibility is it to legislate? Particularly we're talking about, like, health care.
Right.
And then ACB says Congress.
It's Congress.
That has nothing to do with the Supreme Court.
Nothing to do with the Supreme Court.
And so, which is kind of funny that...
They keep asking this question, and then they came back in this whole question about severability. And it's like, well, you're going to just quash the whole law. It's like, again, that's not my role.
Right.
My role is to determine as a judge, as a jurist, is to say, is this part of the law constitutional?
Right.
Now, they said the other part of the law becomes, now the whole Affordable Care Act is, now if we take away this mandate,
Right.
which was then deemed to be a tax and not deemed to be a... what they call it? It was a tax as opposed to a... I'm blanking on the word now. In other words...
I learned a lot in the hearings.
It was unconstitutional. I forgot the exact word. And so because of that, that part has to be... The question is, can you sever that one portion out of the law without destroying the whole Affordable Care Act? Now, I have to say that the Affordable Care Act as a whole has been a horrible piece of and they make it sound like, again, as if the American people voted for this.
Right.
Do you understand that you did not vote for the American Care Act? Do you understand that? The
Yeah.
Affordable Care Act. We didn't vote for that. Obama did that through executive order,
Right.
and then took it to the Supreme Court, and they voted in favor
Right,
of it.
and I think like in anything, of course there's people who benefit from it. That's like anything, okay? However, which I was happy that some senators brought up, is that there are many, 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 many Americans who have private health care, okay, who are still paying penalties for Obamacare, you know what I mean? Which is silly. And so,
like I said, we know people personally who were fined
for not having insurance, for
being healthy,
yeah.
for not going to the doctor, for staying perfectly healthy. They were fined $5,000 in a free country. You got taxed for being healthy.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So we talk about constitutionality. So to me, it's a real problem when I see Congress, congressmen and women, in this case senators in particular, sitting there asking a potential Supreme Court justice to rule based on her feelings
As opposed to
the law. And
Right.
it seems to be a major problem for them that she wants to uphold the law. This is concerning. And I don't know whether other people are concerned by this, but the Bible talks about this as a principle. It says, "Woe to you who call evil good and good evil."
Right.
There's this flop where you're going to come in and say, "I'm just going to ignore what's right." There's another principle in the Old Testament that said, "Don't ignore the signpost or the fence post that's put up by your fathers." In other words, there's power to this tradition.
Right.
There's power when you have a righteous tradition. There's power in observing it. And when we come in with this idea of this living document,
Right.
which means I can see what the text says. Now, this is the extreme of the textualists. You have the originalists and the intertextualists. The extremes of the textualists is that I see what the text says, but I don't think that's what the founding fathers intended for it to say. So therefore, I'm going to tell you what I think they should have said.
In today's climate, this makes more sense.
Right.
Or reading it for today's
we go back to
culture,
in something that happened within the world of Christendom. We used to have the Jesus Conference that happened every year back in the Midwest. Are you familiar with the Jesus Conference?
Like the Jesus movement you're talking about?
Not the Jesus Conference. The Jesus Conference, when all these, I call them pseudo-intellectuals, but they were degreed people, men and women. They would get together and they would review passages from the Bible. And then they would vote and decide which ones they thought Jesus didn't really say. So therefore, when Jesus said homosexuality was a sin, that's not what he really meant.
Oh, okay.
So he didn't really mean these things. So they go back and they're taking things and are deciding now, here in then was it the 20th century, now coming to the 21st century, deciding what parts of the Bible are not really legitimate, and what parts of the Bible do we have to adjust on. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things in the Bible that flies in our face. The way God looks at the difference between men and women, God never apologizes for it. So as a Christian, I accept it as truth.
Right.
But when you put things in their proper light and balance, you don't have the inequities that you see in the world. You see a harmony, the yin and the yang, so to speak.
And one thing that I really like, and I know a lot of the senators had commented on ACB, just her... First of all, I mean, she had no notes. That was phenomenal. She's an intelligent woman, and it made me want to go read a book. I was like, I need to get educated.
Like, oh my God,
because she
was
so amazing. Like, it was so impressive.
Yes.
But then also, just what she's talking about, being an originalist, and really just, I think the phenomenon of America, that we've been a nation that has been consistent, in the sense of you have all these states. It's huge compared. You look at the country of the United States compared to like a country in Europe, and you realize how crazy it is that we can have such a huge, vast, really land with different states that have state sovereignty, but then can yet operate as a whole country.
Yes, it's
phenomenal.
The beauty of God's design.
That's federalism, and like how that
and that's it shows you the mind of God behind it.
Yeah,
because even if you look at the Bible, you saw the 12 tribes who operated as individual tribal, for lack of a better word, tribal nations within themselves. They governed themselves within their tribal boundaries, but yet they were all governed by God in Israel.
So it's a principle that's true, and I think that's why it works.
That's why it's because it's true.
It's a true principle.
And so we see these things come to pass. We go, like the Bible says, that truth is of God.
Right.
I am the way, the truth, and the life.
And I think
so all truth comes back to God.
Right, and I think that's why it's important that originalist perspective is important in the sense of if we get away from that foundation, well then what we've created here, this American experiment, will fail. It's
like we hear people talk about all the time. They'll say, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's just carnal. That has another. It's like, but when you put it back in the form, in the context of the originalists, what does it mean? It meant this pursuit of happiness had to do with the good of the whole.
Yeah, wasn't it like the good? Yeah, we did a show on that.
Yeah, it wasn't about, I got mine, you get yours. If you don't get it, shame on you. No, it's about the pursuit of happiness was for the pursuit of the good of the whole. Right. And so that changes things. So when we go back to the originalists, we go, what was the intent here? Right. So, and it's something that Judge Barrett said that I thought was really beautiful, is that we go back to the intent of the founders, not to the specific goal of an individual.
Right.
So yes, I could be an individual, and I would say we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed with certain rights by their Creator. I could say that, and then I could interpret as an individual and say that means all white men who own property.
Which a lot of people did interpret that way.
Some people did do that, and we got a lot of that we see that was fathered on down, and especially in the South, that came out of that. But then, as I was explaining to someone online in a discussion last night, but the beauty of having the originalist view, we go back and say, okay, in the context of what happens there, what does that language really mean? It means all men. So now we go back, we look at this in the context of the intent of the original purpose.
Right.
Now you could have the son of a slave, a young man in the South, Dr. Martin Luther King, can come and say, hey, this law right here guarantees me rights. Because it's in the context of the paper. And all of a sudden now, this perversion of the law has to fall away.
Right.
And that's the beauty of having the Supreme Court being able to sit this and go, we look at this and this is what it says. And if you have people who can really look at the Constitution and see it in its intent, then we see the beauty of God in it.
Right.
But when we take it away, all of a sudden things like abortion becomes a constitutional right. Killing babies
another
becomes
thing,
a constitutional
I think that's so important
right.
because I hear so many people, hit the mic. So many people who say that it is a constitutional right.
They talk about like it's an amendment.
And they say that, and it's like, no.
It's not.
First of all, that's deception because I've heard people in
it's
Congress.
It's a lie.
Like people in Congress saying it's a constitutional right. And it's like, you know it's not.
Even as they say it, they know it's not.
And they know it's not. But then your average person who's not going to even look into something sits here and says it's my right. And it's like, actually, it's not protected by the Constitution.
That's when you look at me and say, okay, what amendment it promises you the right to kill your baby?
Right.
Now, I can show you an amendment that tells you can't. You have protection from unlawful confiscation of yourself, your person, or your property. I have an amendment that tells me that. I have a right not to be murdered or harassed. That's in the Constitution.
Right.
You can't show me a Constitution that tells me you have the right to kill a baby.
Right.
So when we have people who are not holding true to the Constitution as a whole, then what happens is that you can do anything you want. You can do anything you want. You go back to the idea of the Second Amendment. Now they've been talking about the Second Amendment. They're trying to get the Second Amendment changed to where it's like, no, that meant only for militia. Show me where it says that.
Right.
Show me where that's at. Show me in the context of the Constitution where it says the right to bear arms is for the militia only. Mm-hmm. It's not there. See, the problem we have is that we have people who don't know the Constitution, don't understand it, and then you have the man on the street who's just parroting what they've heard their representatives, the senators and congressmen should say, what the congressmen are saying, and the congressmen are lying to them. Mm-hmm. Because this is what I want you to understand. Follow me on this. The congressmen, I know AOC challenges this. I'm going to say it. They're not stupid.
Oh, you're so bad. I mean,
they know what they're doing.
They do. It's called evil.
They are lying to you. That's what I'm trying. And I'm not trying to be evil. I'm saying, but when someone knows the truth and they tell you something that is not true for the purpose of deception,
it's called a lie.
It's called a lie. And so when they say something as simple to you as abortion is a constitutional protected right, it is a lie.
Right.
What they can say, it has been interpreted to be. And that you can find. You can argue for that.
Yes.
And that's where the room of the argument is. That's why it comes up occasionally back in the Supreme Court. This debate on whether or not abortion really is protected. Because it's not a prescribed right.
Right.
And so when people tell you things like that, especially when they know better, it's not a mistake. It's not ignorance.
Right.
It's a lie.
Well, even a lot of the things, and I thought it was so cool watching the hearings, how certain senators would take something she said out of context and they would quote it to her. They'd say it. And then she'd say, well, in the whole context of what I said. And then she could remember what she had written. And I'm like, man, that's amazing.
They did not count on her having this memory.
Right, which was so great. And I'm like, how cool.
Thank you, my God in heaven.
That she was able to do that. Because number one, it was really impressive. And also...
It stopped the lies.
It stopped the lie. And just like, if you look at her record and the way they talked about her and the way she presented herself, it's like, it's kind of hard to, I'll put it this way. You look really stupid when you try to attack somebody who has who's kind of lived above reproach. You know, it's like,
I love the question.
They look really dumb trying to attack her.
When the senator said, I knew they would go there, but I was kind of hoping against hope that they wouldn't.
Sexual assault one?
Yes. I'm like, here this woman is.
Yeah.
There's nothing in her history anywhere, because if it was, trust me, they would have found it.
Oh, 100%.
It's like that one thing they found in the library at Notre Dame, right? She goes, I didn't remember. It's nowhere to be found. My recollection is that your clerks, whoever it was, had to go to the library and do a hand search through files to find this. So, in other words, they were looking. That's what I'm trying to point out. So if there was anything in her history to suggest that she was out there doing something, they would have found it. They'd have came back. So the fact that they would say this just for the purpose of flustering her, just for the purpose of getting it on the record that they accused her or suggested, nothing in her character to suggest that this is happening.
Right.
Mama of 7 babies.
Catholic.
I mean, not just Catholic. Because,
I'm just saying. Looking at her, like.
What I'm saying, devout Catholic. That's what makes it. She's a practicing devout Catholic. And then to ask her, "Have you ever been accused of a sexual?" I'm like, where did you pull that out of my ear? Hold on.
Those were left over from the Kavanaugh.
I'm like, it's like crazy.
I just love, like, have you ever, like, sexually assaulted anyone? She's like, no.
It's like.
And if so, like, really, they're gonna be like, "Oh yes, I did. I forgot. I sexually molested."
Oh, it's like last weekend. No, it's just so crazy. So when we start thinking about this, guys, and just to bring this one to a close, but I want to just kind of get you back to why the Constitution and having the Constitution is so important. It is a question of truth. It's a question of truth. Everywhere in Scripture, you'll find that the principle of integrity is very central. Who do man say that I am? Jesus asked. It's not okay just you have your opinion. They say this and this and this. He's coming. What did he say? But who do you say that I am? Because it's important to have truth. It's not okay enough just to be in the general ballpark. Either you're on the boat or you're in the water. It's like I was kind of in, no, you weren't kind of there. You were either in or out.
Right.
It's like when I tell my kids when they were smaller, be home by 10. It don't mean 10:01. Were you in the house at 10? Or which time zone you talking about, Daddy? This one. It's like, no, truth matters. That's what we're talking about. Truth matters. And so when we listen to, I need you to start listening to your elected officials. I don't think it serves you, them, or us as a whole when you give them the pass that you don't even give your own self.
Right.
When you allow them to lie and you allow them to mischaracterize and you say to yourself, I wouldn't even do that. Or if someone did that to me, I would be upset. So now we can't go around and excuse it because they may represent the party. Like when Trump says something stupid, it's stupid. I ain't going to defend it.
Right.
It's stupid. People tell me, say, well, Trump ain't a Christian. I never heard him say he was.
Right. I'm not holding him to the standard of
I've never heard Trump claim to be a Christian.
Right.
He tried to, in his first running, he was trying to quote the Bible and he said, 2 Corinthians. I'm like, yeah, you never looked at the book. You never looked at the book.
I was like, it's okay though.
I know you have I know he has a godly heritage.
Yeah.
He has a family member who just was phenomenal in this call of the Lord. I know that from history. However, as Chuck Smith said, God don't have grandchildren.
Yeah, but it's like you're saying, it's thinking critical. I told my students today, actually, because I wanted to get them to think. I don't want to tell them what to think. I want them to how to think, right? Which is just missing in the university. So I'm like, I'm going to try to bring that in.
I'm not going to tell you what to think.
And I was telling them, because we're talking a lot about culture, and I said, there's nothing wrong with rooting for your team.
No.
Okay?
No.
Like, we like team players, okay? I'm patriotic.
Go USA.
However, and what I told them is, it's really easy to always root for your team. And sometimes, like, the hardest thing to know is the thing you think you already know. I heard that quote, and I was like, that's so true. And our culture, like we talked about before, it is normative. It's normal to you. And so oftentimes we don't question it. And especially when it comes to what we believe. And in culture, which, especially as believers, we are so sometimes just like living in the culture, not even realizing that it's carnal.
Living even in our church culture.
Even in our church culture. Yes. And so the importance of being a critical thinker, I think it's so important. As believers, we above all people should be critical, rational thinkers.
Right.
Examining everything. And just because you're on my team doesn't mean you're always right.
You don't get
a buy.
No.
And
you
so
get scrutinized.
And so being critical of everything.
What's the Bible say about that? The Bible tells us the exact opposite. The Bible tells us to judge Christians, to excuse non-believers.
Right.
What do we want to do? We want to judge the heck out of people like Trump. We want to judge the heck out of him and excuse people we know to be Christians.
Yeah.
We got it backwards, right?
We have it. We have
Guys, think about it. Hop over the fence. Get behind the why. What do you say? So, until next time.
But one thing we do need to actually
wait.
clarify what you said. Because it's true. We are called to judge believers.
Yes.
We can't hold non-believers to a godly standard in the sense that they don't know. They're in darkness. However, we still hold public officials.
Oh, gosh,
You know what I mean? So I don't want people to be like, well,
no.
You don't.
We're talking about, yes.
I just want to clarify that.
Good clarification. Bump me up. Woo! See,
still hold them to the standard.
This is why she's the smartest one in the bunch, and I'm just here to hold this cup and try to look good doing it. That's my job. That's
whatever. Please.
Until next time.
Until the next time.
Get behind the why. Peace.
Peace.
Love you guys.